There's a moment, soft and sharp all at once, when someone you cared for deeply wounds you without warning. It might be a word, a betrayal, or simply the heavy silence that follows their withdrawal. And in that space between confusion and heartbreak, your first instinct may be to react, loudly, passionately, desperately. But let me offer you something different, a whisper in the storm. What if your quiet was more powerful than your rage? You see, most people expect fireworks when they hurt you. They're prepared for angry texts, tears that demand explanation, or even accusations meant to stir guilt. That's the script they know. That's the stage they expect to perform on. But imagine rewriting the story. Imagine not giving them the chaos they anticipated. Instead, you walk away not with fury, but with grace. Not to punish them, but to protect yourself. When a man wounds you by words, actions, or absence, he might believe he still holds a piece of your heart. He may think he can still shake you, that your emotions are his to stir. But the most startling thing you can offer him is nothing. Not coldness, not performance, just silence, a dignified, healing kind of silence. Because silence is not weakness. It is strength in its most refined form. It says, I see what you've done. I've felt the sting, but I will not allow it to define me. And when you stop responding with emotional chaos, you begin responding with clarity. Not for him, but for yourself. You send a signal not to provoke confusion but to reclaim your peace. You refuse to beg for love or understanding from someone who mishandled your heart. You let your absence carry your truth. You become a mystery not because you're playing games, but because you're focused on healing in ways he never expected. And that confuses him. Not because you wanted to, but because he never imagined you would choose peace over noise. Silence over struggle, growth over grasping. This is the beginning of your quiet revolution, the one where you stop proving and start becoming. Not for anyone else, but for the woman in the mirror. The one who deserves to be held gently, even when others let her down. Let the silence speak. The art of walking away without looking back. There's a sacred kind of strength in the way a woman removes herself from the chaos without saying a word. He hurt you, maybe not with his hands, but with his disregard, his absence, his neglect. And while your heart may be aching for answers, you don't give him what he expects. You don't beg, you don't plead, you simply leave the space. And that confuses him. Because he's used to women trying to make him see what he's done wrong. He's used to the long messages, the late-night phone calls, the just one more chance kind of love. But not this time, not with you, because something in you has shifted. Quietly, powerfully, and now, instead of reacting, you are responding with your distance, with your dignity. This is the moment you stop being predictable. When you respond instead of react, you remind yourself of your worth. You no longer live to convince someone of your value. You remember, your worth was never up for negotiation. It was never meant to be proven, only recognized. So, instead of chasing him for clarity, you chase nothing but your peace. You return to yourself. You protect the pieces of your heart that still remain unbroken. You let him wonder what changed, why you stopped fighting, why your energy is no longer orbiting around him. And that's where the lesson begins, not just for him, but for you. Because sometimes, walking away quietly teaches louder than any confrontation ever could. It's not about punishing him. It's not about getting even. It's about you choosing not to carry what was never yours to hold. His guilt, his confusion, his excuses. You let him sit with his silence. Because now, it's his turn. And maybe, one day, he'll realize that you were never the type to be begged for. You were the type to be cherished. And when he does, it will be too late. But you won't be waiting. You'll already be far ahead, holding the hand of your own healing, dancing in your own light, blooming in places he will never get to see. Because you finally understood. Walking away doesn't mean defeat. It means you were wise enough to stop explaining and brave enough to let go. And that is everything. Silence is the loudest answer. There's a power in silence that words will never touch. A kind of clarity that only comes when you stop trying to be understood by someone who was never listening. He expected you to scream, to cry, to make a scene. But you didn't. And that quiet, it unsettles him. Because silence doesn't give him control. Silence doesn't feed his ego. Silence, in fact, leaves him with only one thing: himself. His actions, his choices, and the empty space where your love used to live. He underestimated what it meant for you to go quiet. You see, when a woman decides to stop responding emotionally, it's not because she doesn't feel. It's because she finally understands that not everyone deserves access to her emotions. Not everyone is worthy of her softness, her explanations, her vulnerability. So she retreats, not to punish him, but to protect herself. Silence is how she says, "I'm done arguing for my worth." It's how she says, "I will no longer dance with chaos." It's how she says, "I love myself more now." And while he may not understand it immediately, he will feel it eventually. He'll scroll through his phone looking for a message that never arrives. He'll check your page hoping for signs of heartbreak. But there's nothing. No bitterness, no jealousy, no trace of pain, just peace. And in that peace, he meets a version of you he never knew existed, a version that no longer seeks closure from him. Because she found it within herself. It's not that she doesn't care. It's that she's done handing her energy to someone who only ever used it for comfort and control. Silence reclaims that energy. And while he sits in confusion, replaying the moment he let you slip away, you're somewhere far from his chaos, rebuilding yourself, piece by gentle piece, in the presence of your own grace. Because when a woman learns to say nothing instead of saying everything, she begins to speak a different kind of language. A language only those with depth can understand. A language he might never learn to read. But that's not your burden anymore. You've moved on from trying to be heard by someone who never saw your silence as sacred. Now, you only speak where there's respect. Now, you only stay where you're safe. And that, dear soul, is what it means to choose healing over havoc. The glow up he never saw coming. When the storm quiets and your silence settles in, something extraordinary begins to rise within you, not out of revenge, not to impress him, but because something deep inside you finally remembers who you are. This is the moment your glow up begins. And no, it's not about changing your hairstyle or curating your life for the highlight reel. It's deeper than that. This glow up is sacred. It's the unfolding of your soul after a season of sorrow. You begin to pour all the love you once gave to the wrong person back into yourself. You move your body not to become desirable in someone else's eyes, but to reconnect with the strength that lives in your bones. You feed yourself nourishing thoughts. You choose rest when you're tired. You choose joy, even when the world expects your heart to still be broken. He assumed his absence would break you. Instead, it became your awakening. Because here's the truth. Most people expect you to crumble when they leave. They think you'll stay stuck in longing, in waiting, in mourning what could have been. But when you choose to rise, not for attention, not for approval, but because your future deserves that energy, it shifts everything. That's the glow up. It's in the quiet mornings when you choose peace instead of pain. It's in the confident steps you take toward dreams you once put on hold. It's in the way you walk into a room not needing to be chosen, because you already chose yourself. And one day, he'll notice. Not because you posted about it, not because you made a scene, but because someone will mention you. Or he'll see you from afar. And it'll hit him not just what he lost, but what he never truly valued when it was right in front of him. That version of you, the one who begged for clarity, who fought to be seen, is long gone. Now, there's only this radiant, grounded woman who refuses to shrink for love. A woman who reclaims her own happiness and walks with purpose, not pain. That's what confuses him. He can't understand how you moved on without needing closure. Without needing one last word. One last text. One last explanation. But that's what happens when a woman stops needing to prove her worth and starts embodying it. You become unforgettable not because you played a game, but because you broke the pattern. And in doing so, you became someone new, someone whole, someone who no longer hopes to be wanted but who walks like she already is. By life. By herself. By something greater. You stopped waiting for him to see your worth. And instead, you became the version of you who sees it so clearly. She no longer needs anyone else to. That is the real glow up. Let silence speak for you. There's something deeply sacred about choosing silence, not as avoidance, but as power. When a man hurts you, he expects noise. He expects your heart to cry out for understanding, for answers, for closure. But when you meet his absence with your own, when you choose stillness instead of a storm, it shakes him in ways words never could. Because silence is not emptiness. It's presence. It's the presence of your boundaries. The presence of your strength. The presence of your decision to not argue your worth with someone who failed to see it. In a world that encourages quick replies, endless explanations, and emotional transparency even to the wrong people, choosing silence is revolutionary. It says, I do not need to prove anything to anyone. I simply choose peace. That's what confuses him. He expects paragraphs. He expects calls. He expects your reaction to confirm his control. But instead, your silence leaves him facing something he's not used to himself. And in that quiet, he has to sit with his own actions, with the weight of how he treated you, with the possibility that he might have truly lost something real. Not because you yelled, not because you begged, but because you chose to disappear from the dynamic altogether. You no longer need to tell him what he did wrong. You let him feel it. That is the essence of mature self-worth. No longer needing others to acknowledge the wound in order for you to heal it. This isn't about pretending not to care. It's about deciding that your emotional energy is sacred. That you won't use it trying to teach someone how to treat you. You'll use it to rebuild your life, your joy, your confidence. And silence gives you room to do just that. It's in that space that your intuition speaks louder. You begin to see more clearly what was real, what was illusion, and what you truly deserve. And here's something beautiful. Your silence doesn't just teach him. It frees you. You stop reliving conversations in your mind. You stop rewriting messages you'll never send. You stop trying to control how he remembers you. And instead, you remember yourself. You remember how you showed up with sincerity. You remember how much love you gave. You remember how much of yourself you poured into someone who didn't pour back. And then, you stop mourning. Not because it didn't hurt, but because you're done letting the pain lead you. When a woman gets quiet, not out of defeat, but out of decision, everything shifts. She becomes harder to reach. Not because she's punishing anyone, but because she's finally reaching herself. And he feels it. He'll scroll through his messages one day, realizing there's nothing new from you. He'll check your social media, hoping for a sign, and find none. He'll sit in silence, suddenly aware of yours, and he'll wonder where you went mentally, emotionally, spiritually. But by then, your silence will have spoken all that needed to be said. You've moved on. You've healed. You've reclaimed your peace. No noise, no drama, no announcements. Just a quiet, graceful exit from something that no longer honors your soul. And that, more than anything, is what leaves the deepest mark. Because silence, when chosen from strength, is not the absence of a voice, it's the presence of self-worth. The glow up isn't for him, it's for you. There comes a moment, after the hurt, after the silence, after the storm has passed, when you wake up and feel something different inside you. It's not rage, it's not longing, it's not even sadness. It's clarity, a quiet, grounding awareness that you're not broken anymore. That the pain no longer defines your day. That your story didn't end with him, it just began again without him. This is the start of your glow up. And let's be very clear about something. This glow up is not about revenge. It's not about making him regret. It's not about proving anything to anyone. It's about coming back home to yourself. To the woman you used to be before they dimmed your light. To the woman you're becoming because you chose to stop shrinking for love. When a man hurts you, it's tempting to make your healing visible for the sake of his notice. You post the right photos. You say the right things. You might even pretend to be fine when you're not, just to stir something in him. But that isn't healing, that's performance. And the true glow up doesn't require an audience. It happens slowly, quietly, and deeply. It starts when you nourish your body again, not for revenge, but because you remember it's your home. It continues when you return to your dreams, not to distract yourself, but because they are yours. And it blossoms when you find peace in solitude. When the silence that once scared you becomes the sanctuary you crave. You start smiling differently, not the forced smile for others, but the kind that reaches your eyes and whispers, "I'm okay now." Your energy softens, not because you've forgotten what happened, but because you're no longer carrying it. You attract new things, gentler friendships, more aligned opportunities, deeper wisdom, because your frequency has changed. You stop orbiting around someone who couldn't see you. And now, you've become the center of your own universe. And yes, eventually, he will notice. He'll see the light in your eyes and wonder if it's still about him. He'll feel the distance and wonder if someone else has taken his place. He'll hear of your joy and wonder how you got there without him. But that's not your concern anymore. Because the real transformation isn't that he wants you back, it's that you no longer want him. Not out of bitterness, not out of ego, but because you've outgrown the version of yourself that needed someone who never saw your worth. That's the power of healing. It's not loud, it's not vengeful, it's not about proving a point. It's about becoming someone who no longer needs to prove anything at all. A woman who glows from within can't be dimmed by someone who left her in the dark. And when you carry that kind of energy, you no longer need to chase anything that was never meant to stay. You are the peace. You are the closure. You are the lesson. And the more you rise, the more the past fades into something that shaped you but never defined you. So if he comes back, and he will, remember, you are no longer the woman he left. You're the woman who found herself in the space he created and turned it into something beautiful. You don't need him to regret what he did. You don't need him to say he's sorry. You don't even need him to understand. Because the truth is, he never really hurt you. He hurt the chance to be with a woman who grew, healed, and transformed without him. And that more than anything will always be his loss. Sparkles, you've just completed your healing journey through this video. If this touched your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Share this with someone who needs a gentle reminder of their strength. Subscribe to Whisper to Heal for more soul-soothing content that brings clarity, peace, and love back to where it belongs within you. You are worthy. You are healing. You are home.